Captain Lisa Murphy stood on the bridge of the USV Leviathan and watched the stars through the main screen. The darkness of space surrounded their massive ship like a black ocean. She had been waiting for 3 long years in the outer regions of human space. 3 years of patrol duty. 3 years of searching for something that might never come. But today was different. Today the sensors showed something that made her heart race. Lieutenant Commander Amy Davis sat at her station and studied the readings that appeared on her screen. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls as she tried to understand what they had found. 12 objects were moving toward human territory from deep space. They were not human ships. The energy patterns were completely unknown. The size readings made no sense at all. Each alien vessel was enormous, but they moved through space like dancers. The Leviathan hung in the shadow of a dead moon. Its stealth systems kept the ship hidden from any sensors. The 4-kilometer-long warship was invisible to the approaching alien fleet. Captain Murphy had ordered complete silence. No communications, no active scans, nothing that might give away their position. They were watchers in the darkness, and the aliens had no idea they were being watched. Admiral Kate Johnson appeared on the communication screen from Earth. Her face looked worried as she studied the same sensor data that filled the bridge displays. She had commanded human space forces for 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The first contact with an alien species was happening, and it did not look peaceful. The alien ships moved in perfect formation toward a human colony world called Haven Rest. 8 million people lived on that planet. Families and children and workers who had built new lives on a world far from Earth. They had no idea that death was coming toward them from the stars. The alien fleet would reach the planet in 6 hours. Amy Davis called out readings from her station as the alien ships grew closer. Each vessel showed massive energy buildup in what could only be weapons systems. The power levels were beyond anything humans had ever seen. A single alien ship could destroy an entire city with one shot. 12 ships could turn a planet into burning rock. Captain Murphy watched the tactical display as red dots moved across the star map. Each red dot represented an alien warship. Each dot was death approaching. Haven Rest. The colony had basic defenses, but they were designed to stop pirates and raiders, not an alien invasion force. The people of Haven Rest would die, and they would never know what killed them. The ship Oracle, which was the Leviathan artificial intelligence, began calculating attack patterns and defense possibilities. Every simulation ended the same way. The alien fleet would arrive at Haven Rest and begin bombardment within 6 hours. The colony shields would last maybe 10 minutes. The evacuation ships could save perhaps 100,000 people. 7,900,000 would die. Dr. Caroline White studied the alien ship designs from her science station. The vessels looked like living crystals that had been shaped into warships, beautiful and deadly. At the same time, their hulls reflected starlight in patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. The technology was clearly far beyond human understanding. These beings had mastered sciences that humans were only beginning to discover. Major Rebecca Stone prepared her fighter squadrons for possible combat. Her pilots were the best in human space, but their ships were tiny compared to the alien vessels. A human fighter was like an insect compared to these crystal giants. Still, her pilots were ready to fight and die if their captain gave the order. They knew what was at stake. The Leviathan remained hidden in the shadow of the dead moon. Its massive bulk was invisible to the alien sensors. The experimental stealth technology had never been tested against alien detection systems, but so far it was working perfectly. The aliens continued their approach toward Haven Rest without changing course. They had no idea that humanity monster ship was watching them. Captain Murphy made her decision in the silence of her bridge. She could not let 8 million people die without a fight. The Leviathan was humanity's greatest military secret, a ship so powerful that its existence was known only to a few dozen people. It had weapons that could crack, moons and armor that could survive direct hits from nuclear weapons. It was built to fight wars that might never come. But now that war had arrived, Amy Davis continued monitoring the alien fleet as they established positions around Haven Rest. The crystal ships moved into bombardment formation with practiced ease. They had done this before, many times. The destruction of populated worlds was routine for these beings. They were not explorers or diplomats. They were conquerors who had come to claim another world. The countdown began in Captain Murphy Mine. 6 hours until the aliens reached firing position. 6 hours until Haven Rest became a tomb. 6 hours to decide if humanity would reveal its greatest weapon or let millions die in silence. The Leviathan could save the colony, but at what cost? The ship existence was humanity's last secret. Once revealed, there would be no going back. Lisa Murphy looked at her crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that burned in her heart. They were ready to fight. They were ready to die. They were ready to show these aliens what humans could do when pushed to the wall. The monster ship would awaken, and the galaxy would learn that humanity was not defenseless prey. The decision came like lightning in Captain Murphy's mind. She turned to her crew and gave the order that would change everything. The Leviathan would reveal itself. The stealth systems powered down, and the massive ship emerged from the shadow of the dead moon like a predator stepping into sunlight. 4 kilometers of human engineering and firepower materialized in space between the alien fleet and Haven. Rest Commander Helen Brooks activated weapon systems that had never been used in real combat. The gravitational disruption. Cannon hummed to life with power that could tear apart asteroids. Plasma torpedo bays opened like the mouths of hungry beasts. Missile launchers extended from the hull in rows that stretched along the ship's massive length. The Leviathan was not just a warship. It was a floating city of destruction. The alien fleet detected the appearance of the human ship immediately. Their crystal vessels changed course to investigate this new arrival. Sensor beams swept across the Leviathan hull as the aliens tried to understand what they were seeing. The energy readings confused them. No ship this size should be able to move. No ship this heavily armed should be able to exist. Lieutenant Susan Mills opened communication channels as the aliens began broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Mathematical sequences filled the speakers. Prime numbers and artistic patterns followed. The universal language of intelligence trying to make contact. The aliens were attempting first contact protocols. They wanted to talk before they destroyed Haven. Amy Davis studied the alien communications from her tactical station. The enemy ships had stopped their approach to the colony. They were curious about this massive human vessel that had appeared from nowhere. Their weapons were still charged, but they were not targeting the Leviathan yet. They seemed more interested than threatened. The lead alien ship was larger than the others, a crystalline cathedral that reflected starlight and rainbow patterns. It broadcast a signal directly at the Leviathan bridge. The transmission carried harmonics that suggested multiple beings speaking together. The voice that emerged from the speakers was hauntingly beautiful and completely alien. The aliens spoke in perfect English somehow, having decoded human language in the few minutes since first contact. The words carried amusement and condescension like an adult speaking to a child. The being called the Leviathan, a primitive vessel, and claimed humanity used technology the aliens had abandoned long ago. Captain Murphy listened to the alien ultimatum with growing rage. The being offered humanity a choice. Withdraw and serve the alien empire or be destroyed, along with Haven Rest. The aliens spoke of humans like farmers discussing cattle. They offered slavery as mercy and death as the alternative. The choice was simple: submit or die. Helen Brooks watched her weapons displays as the alien ships moved into new formations. They were not retreating, but they were not attacking either. The crystal vessels danced through space with impossible grace. Their energy shields glowed brighter as they prepared for possible combat. These beings were not afraid of the human dreadnought. They were curious about it. The Leviathan Artificial Intelligence Oracle calculated thousands of combat scenarios in seconds. The alien ships were fast and well defended, but they relied on energy weapons and shields. The human ship carried kinetic weapons and explosive devices that might penetrate alien defenses. The battle would be close, but victory was possible. Major Rebecca Stone prepared her fighter squadrons for launch. Her pilots climbed into their ships knowing they might be flying their last mission. The alien vessels were enormous compared to human fighters, but small ships could slip through defenses that larger vessels could not penetrate. Her people were ready to die for Haven. Rest Dr. Caroline White analyzed alien technology. From her science station, the crystal ships used energy patterns she had never seen before. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them, making targeting difficult. Their weapons appeared to focus stellar energy into coherent beams that could slice through metal like paper. These aliens were masters of forces humans barely understood. The alien commander continued broadcasting its demands. The being seemed genuinely puzzled by human resistance. Most species apparently surrendered immediately when faced with alien superiority. The fact that the Leviathan remained in position between the fleet and Haven Rest confused the alien mind. They could not understand why humans would fight against impossible odds. Amy Davis detected movement in the alien formation. The crystal ships were spreading out to surround the Leviathan. They intended to capture or destroy the human vessel before continuing their mission to Haven Rest. The aliens had decided that negotiation was over. It was time. For violence, Captain Murphy stood on her bridge surrounded by the finest crew in human space. These men and women had volunteered for a mission they knew might be their last. They had trained for years to operate the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. Now they would discover if their preparation was enough. The countdown reached 0 as the lead alien ship powered up weapons that could crack continents. The rainbow patterns on its hull shifted to angry red as energy built up in firing chambers. The alien commander sent one final transmission demanding immediate human surrender. The beautiful voice now carried the promise of annihilation. Lisa Murphy gave her response on all frequencies, so every ship in both fleets could hear her words. She spoke for all humanity when she rejected the alien ultimatum. The Leviathan would not withdraw, the colony would not be abandoned, and the aliens would learn that humans did not make good slaves. The monster ship powered up every weapon system and prepared to show the galaxy what human rage looked like when set free. The first shot came from the Leviathan gravitational disruption cannon. The invisible beam reached across space in an instant and struck the nearest alien vessel. The crystal ship imploded like a soap bubble. The massive warship compressed into a sphere of twisted metal no larger than a basketball. 800 meters of alien technology and crew became a marble floating in space. Helen Brooks watched her weapons displays light up like a Christmas tree. Every gun on the Leviathan fired. At once, plasma torpedoes streaked toward alien targets, trailing fire through the darkness. Missile volleys followed, carrying enough explosive power to level cities. Railguns launched projectiles at near light speed. The human Dreadnought unleashed hell upon the Crystal Fleet. The aliens responded with weapons beyond human understanding. Coherent energy beams sliced through space like swords of pure light. Each beam could cut a normal warship in half, but the Leviathan armor absorbed the first wave of attacks. The massive ship hull glowed white-hot where alien fire struck, but the metal held. The monster ship had been built to survive anything. Amy Davis tracked the battle from her tactical station as alien ships danced through the human barrage. Their crystal hulls reflected weapon fire and dazzling displays of light. The enemy vessels moved with impossible grace, dodging missiles and sliding between plasma bolts. Their technology let them bend the laws of physics in ways that hurt her brain to watch. The lead alien ship broadcast again as the battle raged around it. The voice carried anger now, instead of amusement. These beings had not expected resistance from primitive humans. The fact that their advanced warship had been destroyed so easily clearly shocked the alien commander. The Crystal Fleet was no longer playing with their human prey. Susan Mills recorded every alien transmission as weapons fire lit up space around the Leviathan. The enemy commander spoke of human insolence and the price of defying superior beings. The alien voice promised that humanity would suffer for this act of rebellion. The Crystal Fleet would make an example of the human species that other races would remember. Major Rebecca Stone launched her fighter squadrons into the chaos of battle. Her pilots flew their small ships between the massive vessels like sparrows diving through a thunderstorm. Human fighters carried nuclear missiles and plasma cannons that could damage alien hulls if they could get close enough. The crystal ships tried to swat them down with energy beams. The alien weapons were terrifyingly effective. When energy beams connected with human fighters, the small ships simply vanished in flashes of light. But stone pilots were skilled and desperate. They used the Leviathan massive bulk as cover diving behind the Dreadnought hull to avoid alien fire. Then they would emerge to launch their attacks before disappearing again. Dr. Caroline White analyzed battle data as it poured into her computers. The alien ships used energy shields that could absorb enormous amounts of damage, but the barriers had limits. Sustained fire from multiple directions could overload the shield generators. The crystal vessels were powerful but not invincible. They could be destroyed if humans were willing to pay the price. Oracle calculated firing solutions and target priorities as the battle continued. The artificial intelligence processed thousands of variables, every second helping human gunners hit targets that moved faster than human reflexes could track. The AI had been designed for this moment when human survival depended on perfect accuracy and split-second timing. The Leviathan shuddered as alien fire penetrated its outer armor. The crystal ships had concentrated their attacks on the human Dreadnought massive hull. Energy beams carved deep gouges in the metal while exotic weapons created explosions that lit up the darkness. Internal systems began failing as damage accumulated across the ship. Length Helen Brooks rerouted power from damaged sections to weapons that still functioned. The Leviathan was dying, but it was taking alien ships with it. Another crystal vessel exploded as gun projectiles penetrated its energy shields. The alien debris field spread across space like glittering snow, mixed with the wreckage of human fighters and pieces of the Leviathan hull. The alien commander sent a new transmission as its fleet continued to take casualties. The being voice carried surprise and something that might have been respect. These humans fought with a ferocity the aliens had never encountered. Most species surrendered when faced with superior technology, but humans seemed willing to die rather than submit. Amy Davis detected massive energy buildup in the alien flagship. The Crystal Cathedral was charging weapons that made its previous attacks look like firecrackers. Energy patterns appeared on her screens that she had never seen before. The readings made no sense. The alien ship was preparing to fire something that could destroy entire solar systems. Captain Murphy realized the battle was about to change in ways she could not imagine. The aliens had been testing human capabilities with their first attacks. Now they were preparing to use weapons that could end the fight instantly. The Leviathan had proven humans could hurt them, but these beings had resources beyond human understanding. The alien flagship began to glow with internal light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The crystal hull became transparent, revealing energy patterns that moved like living things inside the ship. The alien commander broadcast one final ultimatum, demanding immediate human surrender. The being voice carried the certainty of someone who held absolute power. Caroline White sensors detected space itself beginning to warp around the alien flagship. Reality bent like heated glass as forces beyond human science tore at the fabric of the universe. The aliens were preparing to deploy a weapon that could unmake matter at the atomic level. They intended to erase Haven Rest and every human ship from existence. Lisa Murphy watched her tactical displays as the impossible weapon charged to full power. The Leviathan had fought bravely, but conventional warfare could not stop technology that rewrote the laws of physics. Her ship was dying, and 8 million colonists would die with it, unless she found a way to stop the alien superweapon before it fired. Space began to tear apart around the alien flagship like fabric ripping under enormous pressure. Dr. Caroline White watched in horror as her instruments showed reality itself, bending and breaking. The Crystal Cathedral was creating something that should not exist in normal space. An artificial black hole that grew larger with each passing second. The weapon was called a void tear, and it would consume everything within 50 light years. Amy Davis studied the readings from her tactical station as the impossible weapon continued to charge. The black hole pulled at nearby asteroids and debris, crushing them into nothing before they could cross the event horizon. The gravitational field was expanding toward Haven Rest at incredible speed. The colony's shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not the fundamental forces of the universe. The alien commander broadcast its final ultimatum as space warped around its ship. The being voice carried the cold certainty of natural disaster. The Crystal Fleet had decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. The void tear would erase every human world in this sector of space. 8 million colonists would die and humanity would learn the price of resistance, Captain. Murphy realized that conventional victory was impossible. The aliens possessed weapons that made human technology look primitive. The Leviathan could destroy crystal ships, but it could not stop forces that unmade matter at the quantum level. Her crew had fought bravely, but some enemies were beyond the reach of courage and determination. Chief Engineer Nicole Ross received orders that violated every safety protocol ever written. The Leviathan fusion reactors would be overloaded beyond any theoretical limit. The massive ship would become a bomb capable of incredible destruction, but to close the void tear, they would need to detonate their reactors inside the black hole event horizon. The artificial black hole continued to grow as it fed on the matter around it. Space dust and cosmic radiation disappeared into the hungry maw, while gravitational waves rippled outward like rings on a pond. The weapon was beautiful and terrible at the same time, a perfect sphere of absolute darkness that reflected no light and consumed everything that came near. Helen Brooks began the process of converting every ship system into a weapon. Life support recyclers became chemical dispensers. Navigation sensors became guidance systems for improvised explosives. Even the gravity generators were repurposed to create mass shadows that would confuse alien targeting computers. The Leviathan was transforming from warship to missile major. Rebecca Stone recalled her surviving fighters to the ship hangar. Her pilots had fought magnificently against impossible odds, but the final battle would require different tactics. The remaining fighters would be converted into bombs while their pilots joined the skeleton crew that would guide the Leviathan. On its last mission, Oracle calculated the trajectory needed to reach the alien flagship, while the void tear continued to expand. The artificial intelligence processed millions of variables, including gravitational forces that existed nowhere else. In the universe, the AI had concluded that the mission had a 12% chance of success. Those were the best odds humanity was going to get. The Leviathan began its death run toward the Crystal Cathedral as alien weapons fire concentrated on the approaching Dreadnought. Energy beams carved deep into the ship hull while exotic missiles exploded against the armor. The massive vessel shook and groaned under the assault, but its momentum carried it forward like a dying whale driving toward shore. Amy Davis coordinated the ship transformation as they accelerated toward certain death. Entire sections of the Leviathan were jettisoned to create a debris field that masked their true trajectory. Each discarded piece carried explosive charges or electronic warfare equipment. The aliens would have to shoot through a maze of decoys and distractions. The crew worked with desperate efficiency as their ship fell apart around them. Men and women who had trained together for years now prepared to die together for people they would never meet. The skeleton crew was entirely volunteers. Everyone else had been ordered to the escape pods, but most had refused to leave their posts. Caroline White monitored the void tear expansion as it reached toward Haven Rest. The colony shields began to buckle under gravitational forces they were never designed to resist. The 8 million people on the planet's surface had perhaps 10 minutes before the artificial black hole consumed their world. They would die never knowing that humans had fought to save them. The alien flagship continued to feed power into its superweapon as the Leviathan approached. The Crystal Cathedral glowed with internal fires that hurt human eyes to look upon directly. The alien commander seemed confident that its void tear would destroy the human ship before any damage could be done. These beings had used this weapon many times before. Susan Mills transmitted final messages from the crew to their families on distant worlds. The communication laser cut through battle chaos to carry last words across the galaxy. Parents and children and lovers would know that the Leviathan crew had died fighting for something greater than themselves. The messages were brief, but they carried all the love humans could express. Nicole Ross pushed the fusion reactors beyond safe limits as explosions rocked the ship around her. The power core would achieve critical mass in exactly 3 minutes. The massive engines that had driven the Leviathan across space were becoming the largest bomb humans had ever created. The explosion would be visible from Earth as a new star that burned for 17 seconds. Lisa Murphy stood on her bridge as it filled with smoke and sparks from damaged systems. Her crew remained at their stations even as the ship died around them. These were the finest people humanity had ever produced, and they would show the galaxy what humans could accomplish when they refused to surrender. The monster ship would have its revenge. The Leviathan's final approach became a masterpiece of controlled destruction. The massive ship shed armor plating and entire sections as it accelerated toward the alien flagship. Each discarded piece carried explosive charges that detonated in sequence, creating a debris field that confused enemy sensors. The dying Dreadnought was transforming itself into the largest missile humans had ever fired. Helen Brooks coordinated the ship transformation from her weapon station as alien fire tore through the hull around her. Every system that could be weaponized became part of the final assault. Navigation computers became guidance systems for improvised bombs. Life support recyclers dispersed chemical clouds that interfered with alien sensors. The Leviathan was no longer a ship, but a 4-kilometer-long projectile. The artificial black hole continued to expand as it consumed matter and energy from the surrounding space. The void tear had grown large enough to swallow small moons, and its gravitational field was pulling at Haven Rest with increasing force. The colony shields flickered and failed as forces beyond human understanding tore at the planet atmosphere. Amy Davis maintained targeting solutions as explosions rocked the bridge around her. The alien flagship loomed larger on the main screen with each passing second. The Crystal Cathedral was beautiful, even as it prepared to destroy entire worlds. Its hull reflected the light from exploding human weapons in rainbow patterns that hurt. Her eyes to watch directly, Chief Engineer Nicole Ross pushed the fusion reactors beyond every safety limit ever designed. The power core temperature climbed toward levels that would trigger cascade failure in exactly 90 seconds. The massive engines that had driven the Leviathan across space were becoming a bomb that would outshine stars. The explosion would be visible from Earth. The alien commander broadcast one final message as the human ship approached. The being voice carried surprise, and something that might have been fear. These aliens had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they had never faced an enemy willing to destroy itself for others. The Crystal Fleet was learning that humans were different from every other species they had encountered. Dr. Caroline White calculations proved correct as the Leviathan entered the Void Tear event horizon. The collision between human technology and alien physics created reactions that existed nowhere else in the universe. Matter and energy behaved in ways that violated every known law of science. The artificial black hole began to collapse as opposing forces tore it apart. The overloaded fusion reactors detonated inside the event horizon, with power that cracked the fabric of space itself. The explosion reversed the void tear gravitational field and turned the weapon against its creators. The artificial black hole became a white hole that ejected energy instead of consuming it. The alien flagship simply ceased to exist, as its atoms were scattered across the galaxy. Captain Lisa Murphy recorded her final log entry as the ship broke apart around her. The transmission laser cut through chaos and destruction to carry her last words across space. She wanted the record to show that humanity's first contact had ended in mutual annihilation. The galaxy would learn that humans were not prey. The white hole explosion consumed both fleets in a burst of energy that lit up the star system like a newborn sun. The Leviathan crew died instantly as temperatures reached levels found only in stellar cores. Their sacrifice closed the void. Tear and saved Haven Rest, but the cost was everything they had. The monster ship and its people were gone. Major Rebecca Stone fighters were caught in the explosion along with the surviving alien vessels. Human and alien technology mixed together in the white-hot plasma that expanded outward from the detonation site. The battle debris would form a new nebula that astronomers would study for generations, trying to understand what had happened. The surviving alien ships retreated into hyperspace as their flagship vanished in nuclear fire. The Crystal Fleet had lost half their vessels to primitive human weapons, and their superweapon had been turned against them. These aliens would carry word of human resistance back to their empire. The galaxy would learn that Earth children could fight. Admiral Kate Johnson received the final transmissions from the Leviathan as the explosion lit up sensors across human space. The monster ship was gone along with its crew of volunteers who had saved 8 million lives. The official records would list them as heroes, but the truth was simpler. They were humans who had refused to let others. Die-Haven Rest survived the battle with minimal damage as the collapsed void tear released its gravitational hold on the planet. The 8 million colonists would never know how close they had come to annihilation. They would never know the names of the people who had died for them. But they would live because others had chosen death. The alien commander final transmission reached human space hours after the battle had ended. The being spoke of human monsters and the price of making war against superior civilizations. But there was something else in the alien voice, something that sounded almost like respect. The galaxy had been warned that Earth was defended. Nicole Ross' engineering team had calculated correctly about the explosion visibility. The white hole burst created a new star that burned for exactly 17 seconds before fading away. Astronomers on Earth recorded the event without understanding what they were seeing. The death of the Leviathan became a brief light in the darkness. Lisa, Murphy's last words became humanity anthem for the wars that would follow. The galaxy had learned that humans were not explorers or diplomats, but something far more dangerous. They were a species that would destroy themselves rather than surrender. They were monsters who protected their own. The first contact was over, but the real war was just beginning.